Alright, this is Morgan here, and here with me today I have Dale Grisso, who is the former student body president of Chattanooga State and a media technologies graduate. And Dale Grisso has written a book called Trapped in My Own Mind, and I'm just going to ask Dale about it. So Dale, what is your book about?
Well, Trapped in My Own Mind was a personal story of myself, and the title just reflected how I felt. And at really not too distant past, I was kind of coming to a point where I felt trapped because I was struggling with negative thoughts about myself. I call it a negative habit of thinking. But I also realized that I didn't feel comfortable telling anyone about it. They wouldn't understand. I had a great job, great family, church, friends, everything you could imagine. School, of course. And yet was struggling with my own security. So I felt trapped. And the thought came to me, wow, I'm trapped in my own mind. These are thoughts in my head that I can't seem to overcome and I can't talk about. And that's where it hit me. Well, that would be a book title. And I realized if this will help somebody else, well, let's just write it. So.
Oh, that's good. So other than your experiences, what also inspired you to write the book?
Well, in telling my story, I got to thinking, even though it's something, sometimes when you feel low, you don't want to talk to anybody about it, but when you think about it from the other point of view, like maybe someone else is struggling and they don't want to talk about what they're dealing with, well, you relate. But if you never communicate, you never know that. You have a similar story. So I thought if writing my story would help one other person to realize that they're not alone in their own struggles, then maybe they'll come out of their shell and talk more, and it would help both of us. And so that's what inspired it, is thinking that I never would have written it if I hadn't thought it would be for somebody else, which is ironic. I wouldn't do it for myself, but for some reason that approach worked for me. It gave me a purpose in writing the project. And as it turned out, I had tons of friends that either wrote their stories or told me their stories, or both.
Wow.
And it's grown into a big campus discussion.
That's great. So what have you learned or discovered when you were writing this book, Dale?
Well, when I started the project, I had no answers to what I was dealing with or struggling with, so the whole point of the project was just to write out my story, just to tell my story in case someone else could relate, like I said. What I didn't realize would happen is that when I started writing, I started making discoveries about my own experiences, things that I had dealt with since a child, all my life, in different things. We're talking about insecurities, to anxiety, to doubts, to depression itself, loneliness, isolation even, rejection, and then ultimately the depression and danger that led into finding freedom. That's the chapters in the book, basically. But anyway, the topics. But for me, starting that writing process kind of got it out there, and it gave me a chance to view what I was dealing with from an objective perspective, almost like I was a second person, looking in on myself, if you could imagine an out-of-body, overview of your own life. And I started to realize, wow, some of these thoughts they're not even logical. I'm thinking things about myself. I can't ever do anything in my future. I've already reached my full potential. Somebody else can do my job. Why am I even here? I had all these kind of thoughts going on, literally. And writing it out made me realize, no, wait a minute. I'm still growing. I haven't reached full potential. And I have a unique way of doing my job that, adds some sort of value, I hope, to the world. So, we're all unique individuals. So I should appreciate that whatever I have, however small it is, to contribute, I should take value in that. So all these things led me to discoveries, and as I was writing, I started coming at point after point, I started making these discoveries that helped me overcome my own thoughts. And so if anyone else has a similar pattern of thinking, others may not, but if they do, well, now this book has a series of some answers that worked for me.
Wow. Well, I definitely have to say that there is definitely one Dale Grisso, and nobody else
That's a good thing.
Nobody else did your job. So, when you were reading this book, Dale, what kind of feedback did you receive?
When writing it in the writing process?
Yes.
As I was writing it, I started talking about the project, because it kind of when you're doing an official writing project, if you want to call it that, it just gives you a reason to get out of your shell and talk about it, because you say, hey, I'm working on a book. It was an icebreaker for talking about my story. And in doing that, I had a number of people that said, well, I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anyone before. I heard that comment a number of times, and then they'd open up with their story.
Wow.
So it started this little domino effect, basically, of stories. And I talked to some of my closest friends about this project, pretty much everyone I could think of. I said, hey, this is what I'm working on, and I would love your feedback. And as a result, they started telling their stories, and like I said, a few of them wrote stories that are in the book.
Nice. So what obviously you've had some great positive feedback with writing this book. What else do you plan to do with your book?
Okay, well, the writing project has turned into a Facebook group page, for one thing. It's called Not Trapped Anymore, and it's an open forum of discussion, so anyone can get on there and make a comment. And we had a number of people that have done that. There's almost 800 members or so. And so basically, we post some resources there. So whether it's a story from the book or a list of maybe phone call helplines, basically, that you could call if you're in need. Other resources like that. So the book project has grown into an online discussion, which has then grown into a video discussion with a student panel that told their stories and their opinions, whether it was personal or just their objective viewpoint or personal perspective on topics like anxiety, depression, things. And so that aired on Comcast Channel 3 on cable TV, and has also been produced by our media department as a approximately 40-minute discussion that's online. So it's on the Facebook group page, it's on my YouTube channel.
So Dale, what effect do you want this project to have on others?
Well, one of the things that hit me with my own story is since I hadn't talked to anyone about it, I didn't realize there was all kinds of resources that are available to anyone struggling with just about anything you can imagine. And again, you know, you're one in now 7 billion people on Earth as of the other day. But when you think about that, what's the chance that there's other people that have gone through the same thing you have? It's a huge chance. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of resources out there to check out because, again, there are many people that have struggled with different things. So you might want to check professional resources online. I mentioned the hope lines or helplines that you can also call in a emergency type situation. Maybe it's the middle of the night and you're really low. Sometimes I wish I had someone I could call at 3 a.m. Well, there's lines for that, as well as, of course, friends, family. Sometimes we overlook counselors, ministers, school counselors. They have a career counseling center here on campus that does depression screenings, and they'll help you figure out, you know, what you need. And we have people with backgrounds in counseling that can really assist. And then you might want to consider counseling centers in your city. You can Google that and find them easily, and then connect with them and see what they have to offer. So.
Well, that's great. Well, where do you hope for this to go from here?
Well, there's a few things. Right now I'm looking at a publishing partnership that Chattanooga State has with a publishing company called Parsons Porch Incorporated, and our partnership with them will be called Southern Collegiate Press. It's on our homepage, chattanoogastate.edu. And Southern Collegiate Press gives students, staff, anyone basically in the South, the Southern, from Texas to Virginia, an opportunity to get their works published, fiction and nonfiction. And you can do it through Chattanooga State, but it's, of course, by this publishing company. So it's an outside source that kind of owns the company. So it's kind of cool how that works. And so hopefully going to show them the manuscript as that partnership is formed. And then along with that, I hope to host group discussions on other campuses and take this beyond Chattanooga State. And with that, I'd like to film those discussions where appropriate and use video segments to create kind of a documentary of many students from hopefully across the state that have a story to tell that can then be posted online or wherever and encourage other people.
Well, that's great, Dale. Well, can you tell our listeners where we can find more information?
Sure. Okay, there's a few options in social networking. Obviously, again, the Facebook group page is called Not Trapped Anymore. You can just type that into the search bar and select your search for groups, and you'll see a lot of information there. You can also email me, and that's just Dale Grisso, DALEGRISSO, @gmail.com. And that's where if someone had a story that they had to tell, they wanted to kind of put out there as a possibility to help others, they could totally email that or post something in the group page.
Well, thank you so much, Dale, for coming in, and I'm excited for this project and the impact that it's going to continue to have on others, and I can't wait for your book to be published. Get my hands on one.
Me too. That makes two of us.
Well, thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Morgan.